Um, okay, so thanks for all coming here and joining in. Really, like I posted a follow-up post in the theme forum. You may not have read, but it doesn't matter. That this meeting is pretty much just sort of a get together, share some concerns, hear each other a bit. I want to hear what you think, and try and set some parameters, and also try and think about the next couple of months, and what that might look like, and where you want to be involved. So we have very clearly a problem in Moodle where people look at Moodle out of the box and they say, wow, this looks old. That's a very frequent thing that I hear. And that, you know, Moodle's functional, it works out of the box, it looks okay, but there's clearly a very big, there's a big industry around improving that, you know, that gap between what people would like to see and what Moodle is. So we have a lot of you making themes. Some of you have businesses making themes, which is totally great. Some of you work at Moodle Partners and do a lot of themes. Some of you do it on your own. Some of you are helping with core themes. Whoa, can you switch off your microphones if you can, just mute yourself. I don't know if I can mute everyone. I'm hearing some major noise from somewhere. There we go, I think I got it. So yeah, there is this gap. We're filling the gap. A lot of people are doing that, and you know, a lot of you, like I know, that Moodle can look amazing with a lot of work put into it. You can make themes that do incredible things, and some of the themes out there are great. You know, Snap at Moodle Rooms is a big one that they've put a lot of effort in. I think there's some really great stuff in there that works. Personally, some things in there don't work for me. And it's the same with every single attempt that anyone's done, that there are things that work, things that don't. When you simplify Moodle's interface, you necessarily usually throw out things. Hello. Maybe you can try and get this screen happening up there, because it wasn't for me. And we necessarily throw some things out, and I want to be careful we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with themes. For certain sites, it makes sense. Certain types of sites, it makes sense. For Moodle Core, it doesn't. And Moodle Core, we need to have all the functionality in the theme. So there's that. So the task that I see, that I want to set here, is how do we make a theme for Moodle 3.2 that is modern, that has the feel that everyone is looking for, that simplicity of navigation, doesn't throw away any features, and doesn't require Moodle plugin programmers to do anything very different. You know, so that current plugins still work. In something in the 3.2 timeframe, so we only have a few months, which is not really long. And you know, from a user point of view, that's for me the most important thing. Along with that, and to achieve some of that, there's a lot of technical things that under the hood that we need to do that will help themers and all of you in general. So. And that's where we get to CSS, JavaScript, and all of the other things, the new frameworks, CSS in particular. And how do we do that? So that's what I'm trying to do here. I see this is Moodle HQ leading at the project, so we'll be actually combining code and bringing it together. We have a number of thoughts and some prototypes already, but we need as much input from people as we can. And the sort of input I'm thinking about is some of you may have already had prototypes that meet some of these goals. Some of you might have already got have tried some things and showed they worked or don't work. And some of you might be interested in testing and giving feedback and fixes along the way, because we'll be developing this open repository and so on. Damien's been taking kind of point on this as the team lead, and I'll hand over to him to talk about some of the details. But the main document that we've got together with the ideas is this one in Docs, and I'll just share it. This is still obviously, wow, that is bizarre. Okay. This is obviously it's still in progress, this document, and it's a summary. I guess if we go through it, before I go through it, has anybody got any comments on the overall aim? Any thoughts? Is this something doomed to fail from the start? Is it a great idea and it's about time? What are you thinking? Got any thoughts?
Yes, you are right. Absolutely. I think it's long overdue. Sorry, I'd cut you off there, I think. But yeah, certainly for a lot of our customers too, it's a big buying decision when, we're up against, the Docebos and the sum totals, the new Adobe products, these sorts of things. It's like a meal, really, isn't it? It's like people sort of buy what they see on the plate, whereas what they see on the plate with Moodle may be very good, but it's sort of stale bread, so to speak. So they like a little bit of potato to the side and some greens and a nice sauce, which is what needs to happen in a theme, I think.
And I definitely don't want to threaten anyone's livelihood with themes. What I see this is just kind of raising the baseline of what's expected. So at least the baseline is good, and then themes can just go even higher from there. So I think that's good. Anyone else? So I think there were some other people talking.
It was me. I just wanted to say that I think what you're doing is great, because this is what I envisaged when we went into 2.1.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you went the wrong way when you did Bootstrap. You should have kept Bootstrap as the main theme.
We still have Bootstrap as it's still currently the basis of the default theme.
Yeah, but I mean, you're using clean theme as like a standard theme.
Oh, okay.
You could have just used that.
Yeah.
That matter,
Thanks, Mary. Nice to see you, Mary. Anyway,
nice to see you
all. Anyone else? I should add that we're looking at...
Martin, it's going to help a lot of young people coming into Moodle, I think. If Moodle itself has the exact same basis as the project you've just been working on in Drupal, if Moodle itself has the exact same basis as the project you've just been working on in pretty much any modern CMS, you open Moodle and straight away you're like, I recognise this jQuery, or I recognise this JavaScript. I don't have to, if I want documentation and help on how to use this, I can just go straight to Stack Overflow instead of having to look for specific Moodle documentation. The same with Bootstrap. If I want documentation on it, I just know how it works as soon as I open it. So for young people, new developers coming in, especially at a university level where quite often we would have interns who would come in and they'd have a week to work on Moodle. and just making sure that straight away they hit the ground and they're running, I think is going to be great for the Moodle community, and getting new blood into the Moodle community and new younger people interested in it.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Stuart. I should add, this is kind of part of a longer term work. Obviously will continue. There is this small project now, and then you may have noticed we've actually hired a UX developer, a UX designer full-time, who's going to be doing a lot of user research. And so long term, he'll be coordinating efforts in that area as well. So
who's the new UX person, Martin?
His name is Daniel. He just his surname, I can't remember what's his surname again. Damien. We've just been interviewing, and we had a couple at the end, and it got a bit very close.
Okay, cool.
We'll introduce you properly when he starts. He doesn't start for a couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Okay.
But he has a lot of experience with some pretty large sites in Australia and mobile apps, quite complicated ones.
Daniel Jimenez with a J.
Daniel Jimenez, that's right.
J.
Okay, well, I'll go on. I guess we might as well go through this in order. I'll hand over to you, Damien. Maybe you want to sort of just start off talking about the CSS framework, and there's obviously a summary there in the document, but anything else, or maybe anyone wants to chime in on thoughts there? I think it's a contentious issue.
Sure. So obviously we have a number of options with what CSS framework we choose. The reason we want to change the framework is because Bootstrap 2 is no longer supported upstream, and we want to go with something that's going to be supported for a long time. The most obvious choices are Bootstrap 3 or Bootstrap 4. And I think that's definitely the right choice, because it's a smaller step from the theme that we currently have. It's not another new thing that people need to learn. And it's going to be mostly compatible with the things that we already have. It's also, they're also one of the most popular, and Martin's talked a few times about the choice between UE and jQuery, and at the time they were both equal, but then now jQuery is like by far a million times more popular, and that's what everybody knows, and that's the shift that we're going to be on. So I talked about this at the US Moot and got some feedback, and I've also posted about it and been looking at the feedback. I've also gone through like the status of where the different Bootstrap versions are. Currently, Bootstrap 4 is at Alpha 2. They've got 5% of the issues left to close before they release an Alpha 3. And then there's going to be one more Alpha before they release the final version. That final Alpha, they've only got 30 issues in the queue for them to fix. And to me, it's looking like that's already stable enough. These additional fixes that they're going to add aren't going to change compatibility with what we do. And we're probably worth gambling on going with Bootstrap 4, which will either be released or soon to be released by the time we release 3.2. And that will sort of give us the longest lifetime for this theme, and it will have all the latest features that people are looking for. One implication of the CSS framework that we choose, it means that this new theme will support less browsers than the old theme. So we're going to have to drop some support for IE 9 and I think IE 10.
Okay. Does anybody here feel that Bootstrap 4 is going to be the new UE? Is Bootstrap on the way out? Is it dying? Some people have said that, and I don't really know. But is anybody here in that camp that they think it's time to look at a new framework, or is Bootstrap still good enough and still the most sensible choice? Okay. No one's got strong feelings? Okay. I know you've done a lot of research around this, Damien. I'm not going against that. I just wondered if anybody here had those feelings because, I remember very well that UE jQuery choice, and at the time there was quite a consensus around UE.
Martin, are you looking at the Zoom group chat? Because Chris and Stuart have commented.
No, I'm not. Sorry.
But yeah, I definitely want to hear opinions from everybody.
Okay, great. Sorry, thanks for the chat.
Well, we have big companies behind Bootstrap, so see it. But
Yahoo is a big company.
it's true. That's a good point.
Okay. Well, keep on going, Damien. I haven't actually personally even looked at the second one at all. So.
Okay, so the second one is just that we write all of our BHAT tests, and we assume that the theme is clean. So as part of this, we're still going to be shipping clean. We're going to need a way to test all of our BHAT features on clean and whatever the new theme is called. And this also impacts, there were some comments about Snap ships with its own BHAT tests, and they'd also like to be able to run the full suite using Snap as the default theme. So this is just about extending BHAT so that you can specify the theme when you do a run and be able to test on all themes. So Raj has already started looking at that, and he understands the problem pretty well. So he's going to be going ahead with that.
Can I ask how big a job that is? With Snap, we had issues with this, but it did seem that you could get pretty close to a theme-agnostic solution just by removing some theme-specific CSS from some of the tests and by rewriting some of the steps to do a more theme-agnostic thing. So currently it opens a menu and then logs out using the logout item in the logout menu and uses some highly specific CSS to make sure that it's hitting the right link. But it could have just went to kind of /logout, or it could have used less specific CSS so that it works on any logout menu. And I'm just wondering if that's an easier fix.
When we're relying on very specific CSS, that's something that we should be fixing in our BHAT files anyway, because they should be more like English and less like programs. So if we have to rely on very specific CSS, we should be converting that into a custom step in the BHAT. And the other part of it is allowing the theme to override any custom step from core. So if you have your logout link is in a different location, then you override the logout step to describe how to get to your logout link. And then it's not a big change, I don't think.
As long as it's not a big change, if it's a project that's big enough to keep people busy for the next 6 months, then obviously that's going to take away from other work that needs done.
Yeah, I don't think it is, and I think Raj will be able to handle it on his own. So
cool. Anybody got any other questions about that? I guess that's pretty self-explanatory now. Just chime in on the chat or voice. It's all good. So the next one about the navigation is obviously some years ago we made the decision to centralize all the navigation into the one navigation block, and a lot of things that were spread around the page were all brought together into one place. It is obviously something everyone is used to, but it doesn't work very well on a mobile or small screen, touch screen. It has this weird tree problem where, the little triangles sometimes do one thing and sometimes another, and when things fold out or don't fold out. It's very connected with the nav bar along the top because it's one structure. And yes, I realise the word intuitive is very contentious. It means different things to different people. But I don't know. Personally, I hear a lot of vague complaints about the navigation block, and I hear a lot of people saying they switch it off completely. And I know a lot of themes do that, and I know a lot of sites do that. So it's not working, clearly. And then when you look at across all the .com sites in the world and all the services and things, there is a very definite trend to them. They're converging on a design which, for lack of a better word, I'll sort of call the mobile touch screen design, where you have a fold-out menu on the left that is relatively flat, just a list of links, and it may be 10 or 12 maybe. And that's it. Like, there's no hierarchy links. There's no complexity there. It's just showing you what you need. It pops out on the left. And you can put it away. So it has usually a hamburger or something at the top to get rid of that. I think, looking at it, I think it's possible to create that from the current navigation tree structure that we have. It needs exploring, but I think it's possible to have a menu on the side of any particular page you're looking at that shows you the links you need in that context, plus some links that take you to other places, which will reload the page to go there. It does mean a few more page loads, but it's a lot more touch friendly and a lot easier to discover, I think. So that's the basic idea of this one. That's going to need a lot of testing. I think there's probably a way to do it mostly programmatically. And I'm talking, so if you're in a forum, for example, all the things that are in the forum settings, turning subscriptions on and off, that kind of stuff for a teacher, that's what they would see there. And then you'd have links off to your dashboard, to maybe your grades page, maybe, whatever the most key things are that you always want to show could go in there. So that's not all being worked out, and that issue would be the place to discuss that. Any thoughts on that general idea? Realizing that it's not at all worked out yet.
I think when you touched upon things that used to be outside of the navigation block that were just in the page,
yeah,
and got moved into the navigation block, I think that's a really important thing to consider, because before we even start looking at how we should kind of like replicate the function of the navigation block elsewhere, maybe a good step would be to say what things can come out of the navigation block and go back onto the page.
Yes.
Because once you've done that and you've stripped the navigation block back a bit, starting to think about how you want to navigate around the page will become easier, because there's less things that you need to think about then. I also completely agree with you when you said more page clicks and a smaller menu. It's better to have more, page loads, I guess, than having a ridiculously complicated menu that tries to make it possible for you to navigate to anywhere within Moodle, just for the sake of not having to, move through the pages. I think having simplified navigation is way more important. Yep.
Yeah, one of those things that disappeared, the navigation, was next and previous in activities, which I was against at the time. I thought that was a really good thing to keep. Everyone voted against me on that one, and it kind of, everyone said, oh, you can just use navigation now, and it died. But I've noticed the trend of most themes, people putting next and previous is back in, and to me it makes so much sense to have that. So I would like to see that, for one thing, come back.
There's for the themes that have been demonstrated recently at the US Moot and at the French Moot, and some of the other themes that I've seen, they have a very specific use case for that next and previous. if you notice, they've never used resources outside of an activity. Because if you clicked next and your next thing on the page was a PDF, the behavior would be kind of inappropriate for that next and previous. So they have very specific constraints that enable them to use that next and previous navigation within activities. Mm-hmm. However, looking at the majority of Moodle sites, certainly that I've seen, it's not the case that there are no resources. It is the case that there are lots of resources, and therefore next and previous does not necessarily make sense for those users and for those institutions.
Yeah. It was implemented as originally as a kind of a theme element that you could call and stick into the theme, and so the theme could choose. But maybe it's something that could be decided on a course setting, and also maybe an activity setting. Maybe each activity could have a flag, a common flag that turned that on and off per activity, perhaps. I'm just thinking to allow it to be flexible and also to not require plugin developers to do any work.
I think the way that plugin developers are doing the work on it is very specific to their institutions. And it might not necessarily be a use case that's useful for the majority of Moodle users. That's my only thoughts, really.
Okay. Well, so I guess the key thing I'm getting out of that is that it should be optional if it's implemented. So I'll make sure of that. But that's just one little thing. But I think what Guy was saying before was exactly right. If we can get some of the things out of the navigation, then it will simplify things. So anyway, that issue is where we can talk about that. Unless anyone wants to say some more now.
Can I add something to that?
Focusing on what we can remove might be more important than thinking about new things to add at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say that I agree with that. We have to remove things from the navigation. That's something I've been saying also for years. But the problem is that developers don't know where to put the links to content. They can't put it in the navigation. In order to solve the problem of moving them out of the navigation, we have to offer developers a framework to actually place these things in the content in the right places. Say, that will also add consistency throughout the different modules, which completely implement things differently, with buttons to add things at the top, others at the bottom. Nothing really consistent. Because I found myself adding things to the navigation just because I didn't know where to put them, and I think we have to solve that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. As soon as we take things out of navigation, it will impact all themes because they'll have to put that stuff somewhere. So it'll be quite a big one that affects a lot of themes rather than just this one theme. So anyway, we can discuss it in this issue some more, but I think it's going to be a tricky balance. But I think it's definitely worth pursuing. The next one here is an idea that it's sort of part of that, actually. One of the things that could be taken out of navigation is the ability to jump all the way across the hierarchy. So between sections or between courses, that is something that could be put elsewhere. One idea was to put it as a drop-down menu in the nav bar. The nav bars, most themes have the nav bar, and so it wouldn't really affect any layout of any existing themes. It's just that when you click on the current course name, it becomes a menu that jumps you to your other courses. And so that seemed to be a quick win.
Yes, the nav bar is the breadcrumb.
Sorry?
I was just replying to Stuart. The nav bar that you refer to is actually what everyone else refers to as the breadcrumb in general.
Yeah, sure. I know everyone calls it a breadcrumb. Technically, it is not a breadcrumb, but okay. It's the nav. It's the nav bar and code.
Just look like a breadcrumb.
A breadcrumb is when you run along like Hansel and Gretel and drop. You have breadcrumbs showing the path you took to get there, whereas this doesn't do that. It actually shows you where you are in the hierarchy. That's a technical. We can call it breadcrumb.
Well, when we get rid of navigation block, this will be a breadcrumb. This will be exactly the path that user took to get on this page.
No, it'll be the path from the root of the site, which is different.
A breadcrumb is your back button on your browser. That's a breadcrumb. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Bass says, has anyone else done it that way? I don't know. I've never really seen that much. Is it a?
Fred did it in a prototype 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I did it because of a demo of Joule that I had seen. So I didn't come up with it.
Okay.
I think there's an issue with it because to me it doesn't look like an established UI pattern. I've not seen, I can't think of any website or even desktop software where they have something that looks like that and operates in that way. And I have a concern with mutating the existing UI pattern because it's established in Moodle. It's been there from as long as I've ever used Moodle myself. Mm-hmm. And I think to actually mutate it and change the behavior of it in such a significant way could have some problems for people. That's my opinion on it. I also, looking at it and trying to think at how it might work on a mobile, touch device. I think if you've got like a lot of courses or a lot of sections, it could be pretty difficult to actually, use your fingers to navigate through the drop downs. And if you've got a small viewport, with some of the organisations I've seen, we've got ridiculous numbers of courses in a category or crazy numbers of sections. I would imagine that the drop down could quite easily slip outside of the viewport. Sorry to be critical. I'd rather be honest about.
Fair enough. I'm on the fence about it. I kind of like the idea, but I agree it's a bit of a Frankenstein thing. I mean, the alternative is we keep it as it is, and you have to jump up once. And then maybe you see a menu on that location somewhere, and then you jump down again.
I'd prefer that personally. Other things as well to consider: is it better to navigate through sections in a different way? So instead of having a huge list of sections somewhere on the top of the page, next and previous on sections, so possibly considering one section at a time. I'm not saying that that's a definite solution to everybody's kind of requirements, but it's something that should be considered as well. Taking things out of the breadcrumb hybrid menu solution, and kind of like saying, well, can we just put the navigation elsewhere on the page?
We just have to balance what we can do in one theme versus what we can implement that's going to not break everyone's themes. So
you guys did a bunch of user testing, didn't you, quite recently? I think I've sat in on 2 different sessions now for Moodle. Minnesota guys?
Yeah,
cool. Okay. We did very similar at Sussex, and let me just dig it up because I dug these out beforehand. We asked the students how useful they found it to be able to view all the categories. So we asked the teachers and the students how useful they found it to view all the categories on the course site, whether it was, and there were 5 options rated from yes, it's essential to no, it's... And the thing that we found was that students really didn't want to see that list of categories and were totally not interested in it. And the same for tutors. They had the system was set up so they could see the categories they needed. In fact, they weren't even interested what categories courses were in. And the system was set up so they had access to those quickly. And that kind of meant that we deliberately made a choice that we didn't need to provide a mechanism for very quick access to categories for either tutors or students, who were the majority of our users. And for admins, we made it possible and easy for them, but just kind of focusing on the fact that you might not need to be able to see all those categories, as the primary users for your system will probably not be interested in that.
That sounds really reasonable. But I think jumping between your own courses is something people do need to do.
Totally. Between your own courses, the primary functionality of the entire LMS.
That's right.
So, from scratch, the very first menu you would probably build would be, how do I access my courses? And focus completely on that. And the other stuff can come later. Things like accessing blogs, notes, what else? Badges, all those things in Moodle can come completely separately from that. But the primary functionality of the entire LMS should be based on the fact that people need to navigate to the courses, and everything else can pretty much disappear if you've got that right.
I totally agree. I mean, that's why this point is in this list. It's about jumping between courses quickly. Where do we put that in the interface in a way that doesn't break all themes, doesn't rely on custom menus, doesn't rely on whether you have blocks or not? That's, where that goes. So that's what this issue is really about. One idea was putting in a nav bar because that's usually on the page. But if we've got a better idea, that's the place to put it.
Looking at both the new Canvas interface, Future Learn, at even the new BB Ultra interface, which Nathan can probably tell you more about. Looking at Khan Academy, I can certainly just, and again, at the two separate themes we did at Sussex, building a page that shows to the students all the courses they're enrolled in, and it's a page, and you can always get to it by going, my courses, and here's a page showing all my courses and all the things I need to do on it. I know the dashboard is that meant to be the dashboard? Because I know that the other Moodle meets, when we talked about the dashboard, we've never really focused on that. We've always focused on how do you customize it, what blocks would be useful to add to it, etc.
No, I think I agree. The dashboard is a key. It's the hub with the spokes. But there's a separate project about dashboard. The Moodle Users Association had a requirements. It's one of their lists, one of the short lists they're voting on right now. So that, here, in fact, there was a presentation yesterday. I streamed it actually, from Leap, and they have a dashboard, and it looks like all the other dashboards everyone else wants as well, which is basically something that has your courses in the center. You see all your courses, and you see the progress in each course, and you get the notifications in a timely way from each of those as well. Those are the key things. That will happen anyway, separately. I guess maybe, that may be enough. So maybe we just focus on taking people back to that, or maybe a special page that just shows your courses if we have to in the meantime. But.
So these are not disconnected for the tutor and for the student. If we are deciding, if whoever is deciding decides that the dashboard will be the primary navigation element for users within Moodle to be able to access their courses, then this intuitive navigation from course to course becomes make the dashboard do this.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, good. Well, there's an issue we're going to work on in there. Right, this is about getting rid of blocks, the next one. at least hiding blocks. So we need to settle on one way in this theme to basically deprecate blocks. Still supporting them, still making them, you can get to them, but not having them in your face all the time, because I think a lot of people have shown that it's not necessary. I think a lot of people have abused blocks because it's a pretty easy way to get your stuff onto the Moodle page in a variety of places. Some of those blocks could easily be done in other ways, as reports, as activities, as many other plugin types. And, you know, some of them are just very questionable. You do not need to see your calendar on every page. If you want to go look at your calendar, there should be an easy way to jump to the calendar and you see it full screen. Or it's just integrated in your device calendar, so you never really need to look at it in Moodle anyway. So there's kind of solutions for all those blocks, I think. Yeah, this is so one idea here is to move all the block regions to a menu somewhere, just for backward compatibility. And I guess people are then encouraged to not add blocks to courses unless they really, really need them. Any thoughts on that, about blocks in general? I mean, any experiences actually with removing blocks? Have people missed them? It seems to be like a bit of a band-aid to pull off. Yep.
This is Nathan here.
Yeah, it's a good to introduce yourself. Thanks, Nathan, because it's easy to see who's speaking.
I'll start my video as well. I work with the Moodle Rooms guys quite a bit. I think so. One of the things specifically with Snap is around sort of obviously we do something different with the blocks in Snap, and I think there's general understanding about why we do that. However, this will be controversial when we start talking to Moodle users, purely because I think just about every conversation I've ever had with a customer about using Snap is they love what they're seeing and they love all the design thinking behind it. And then they want to put blocks back in on the left and right hand side.
Yeah.
So I think we have to recognize that this is going to be controversial with some members of the community as well. So.
It's a shame Paolo isn't here, because he did a very nice thing with Moodle a long time ago, where he wanted to put blocks in as parts of the main content. So he just made them be able to put in the same. You can put resources and activities in on your page. I really liked that as a concept at the time.
I want to just highlight that if people really, really want to use lots of blocks left and right or whatever, they can just switch to a different theme, right? They go back to clean, or they use essential, or whatever they're currently using that shouldn't be broken. But this is, as a default theme, it's kind of, we're just trying to nudge people down this road of thinking about cleaner, simpler, touch-friendly designs where students can focus on the content. But it still needs to have block access somewhere. So, I mean, have we got any ideas for how to, or any examples actually of a theme that has kept blocks but just deprecated them visually?
There's the Sussex one where blocks always appear at the footer in the course. So as a tutor, underneath your content, on every single page, you have the two regions. One is, what was it? Visible to students, and the other one is only visible to teachers and admin. And I can't remember what theme I saw the other day that had pretty much exactly the same concept. That was one pattern. Sorry, I could get a piece of paper and draw it. Would that be useful?
Okay.
Or can you imagine?
Yeah, later. This was just a chat, so just, but if you think of it, putting them in this issue would be good, or on the forum. Anyone else got any other ideas of, I mean, they could be it could be sort of a hamburger type thing that pops them out somewhere maybe off the other side.
The hamburger is generally associated with navigation, isn't it? So you click on you click on the hamburger when you want to move somewhere else within the site.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's a thought.
So that putting blocks in a hamburger would not fit that pattern that users are used to on the internet.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not directly related to the user interface aspects of this, but somebody did a few years ago do some performance tests where they tested different themes in Moodle and various different settings. And one of the few things they found that made a kind of major noticeable difference to Moodle performance was turning blocks off. And I think that's particularly important because most blocks are added by default. Relatively few that people actually choose and ask for, whereas they get a bunch of them. And I think their primary usage is padding. It's just Moodle would be too wide without them, so they have these things at the side. But they're making database calls. They're taking up time.
It's very true. It's very true. It just visually balances the page. As part of this, I would like in the default installation to not have any blocks. So hopefully it will look good with this new theme. It'll still look balanced.
I don't have an example, but I did build a theme a while ago, which worked with the idea that Bass has been talking about in the chat there, which is, like you said, Martin, to have it off canvas and slide in. Now, Stuart makes a very good point about the hamburger button and its context between different sites on the internet, so probably a different icon would be useful to use for that. But it does work. The thing I found was that I needed to collapse each block initially, so that then once you open what's essentially a drawer menu, you can then expand the blocks that you need, which encouraged users, I think, to put in less blocks, which is a big thing. I think initially someone mentioned it in the chat there, Moodle puts in a lot of blocks by default, which not every user needs. So I think reducing that could do a lot as well.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay, so that's something we'll work on. The next thing is just about style. I guess what are people's thoughts about? I mean, obviously this is a complex issue, but I'm not saying it's going to be material design or anything with the name necessarily. But I mean, what are people's thoughts for a default theme? It would be nice, and I guess the effect I want is when someone installs Moodle out of the box, they go, "Wow, Moodle has changed a lot," right? And we know it hasn't because it's just that skin and it's a few colors and choices of white space and layout. But has anyone got any good thoughts for what that could be, or a guiding principle, or anything about that?
It's worth remembering that there's some bits of Moodle, even today, that are very easy to change and can have a very big visual impact. And then there's other bits that are incredibly hard to change and probably have much less of an impact. But still, lots of small impacts add up together. I'm quite interested in fixing that long tail and making it so that you can change the look of a button with one line of CSS and it affects every single button across the whole of Moodle. But that's long, arduous, boring work. Whereas changing the front page of Moodle so the header looks cool and has a cool image, and choosing a nice open source font from Google Fonts, that's relatively easy to do, and people are already doing it today with the tools and abilities that are available in Moodle. And I would say for that initial newness, then probably people will end up doing the easy stuff because it's easy. And that's good and that's cool, but I would like to remind people that we've got kind of boring work that needs done to kind of make all the modals look the same and all the buttons look the same and forms to have buttons in the same place rather than kind of patchwork.
Totally agree. I think a lot of this is probably governed also by Bootstrap 4, perhaps, and you know, I guess following those guidelines and fixing up all those little areas. Absolutely. In this project, I hope we can do a lot of that as we go. A lot of little things, obviously not everything, but it'll be something to help that overall look. I see a lot of people saying Material is a good choice. Material Bootstrap exists. So, well, it should be interesting. That's something I guess we can already start experimenting with. John Oakley already had a shot at a very interesting design, which we can probably post later. I guess we're getting on in time a bit.
What David said about the elements that make up Moodle, just referring back to that, if you actually think about either the front page of your Moodle or once you get into a course listing page, those are the elements that are Moodle. An element that lists possibly all the courses that you have access to, that it doesn't really matter what the stuff around it is. That would be up to the institution. But if there was any way to actually concentrate on making the bits that the institution put into their framework a little bit nicer, that'd be great. I know that a few of us have had some fun on Twitter talking about, you know, things like when a university wants to improve the quality of their teaching and learning, the first thing they do is put a carousel on the front page. And that's kind of like, that has zero to do with teaching and learning at all. But it's easy to do in Moodle. It's a very quick kind of plaster and a bandage. But the actual components that make up Moodle, once you start using this system, are the things that make it look dated. It's not the stuff that appears over the top. It is the underlying things about, you know, you open an activity and you've got kind of 23 tabs across the top with 16 buttons and 2 search form elements somewhere over here, and then maybe somewhere else down the page some other bits of stuff.
Sure, there's a lot to do. The activities is another whole, if you look at my priorities stuff in my keynotes these days, you know, overhauling activities is very, very high on our list. And then we've got all this technical debt still remaining with Mustache, those templates, and getting that finished.
So looking at the core and fundamental pages that people visit the most in Moodle, I think you put a ticket in about the profile page, Martin. We talked today about the dashboard page. With those items, concentrate. The dashboard page, the fact that it displays the list of courses that every user is going to need every single day, every time they access Moodle. Make that look beautiful, make that look wonderful, make that look consistent. And you've straight away got a huge distinction from anything else. You're like, this is Moodle. Yeah. It looks great. It does the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all on the list for sure. We've been looking at if you haven't looked at it yet in the MUA, they have a look at their proposal for the dashboard, and you can comment there if you like, see what you think about that. But a lot of people are behind that with the dashboard. But that's not, we haven't got room for that in this particular cycle, so that would be probably 3.3.
I think that's your solution though for make Moodle look distinct from older versions, is make the components that make up the fundamental core of what Moodle is. Brilliant for users to interact with and visually stunning.
Yeah, it's not just a visual change, the dashboard. The dashboard's going to need a lot of work done around completion to make the progress bars look and be correct. We are working on notifications and things right now, so that is something. Anyway, we're getting a bit off track, but I totally agree with you, Stuart. It's a very important thing. It's just not part of this particular theme.
Just one note on that. Like, there's theme and UX go together, but they're not the same thing. And if we're going to try to improve UX through the theme, we have to consider UX as a global thing. Like, because if we work on that theme now, we improve the course, navigation, etc., and then we go to the dashboard and we're like, oh wait, we have to make that super inconsistent with the rest of Moodle because we didn't consider that combination with the changes we made before. We're going to have other UX issues. So I mean, I'm not saying that we have to change the dashboard, but we probably have to overlook the overall in order to design something that works and that will evolve properly with the rest of the changes we make.
There's kind of user journeys you can map out, isn't there? So this is kind of about navigation. If you map out, just draw little mobile screens and go, this is how I get to my course. Here's my front page of Moodle. This is how I get to my courses. This is how I access this. And you set out each of the tasks and put it in the right place on the right page. So that when you think about designing each of those pages, the dashboard, the profile page, you know that these are the components we've got to prioritize on that page. These are the things we need to really think about on that page and not get bogged down in too much of the other detail and extendable bits. And then you'll have your user journey mapped out in your little screens of how people flow through, and that perhaps will impact on whether or not you need these drop downs from the nav bar or the breadcrumb, because you've already got a place, you know that this is where we're going to do this. I think, did Lip show that work to you, Martin, that they've done on that?
Who, sorry?
Did the French UX guy partner show that to you in the French Moodle Meet at all?
The dashboard they didn't actually show. A lot of that was still quite early work. They hadn't actually had working courses with it yet. So I said, let's please show it when you actually got a course in it.
Before the dashboard, though, they will have mapped out the user journeys, and I've certainly seen their document on it before about whereabouts everything lives.
Yes.
Once you've got
this is overall UX work. We have to be careful with this because we're not designing one site or one. You know, we have to look at what we can do for this project without breaking everybody's sites. So we're a bit limited with this particular thing. I just want to keep on track here with time because we could obviously, and I would love to talk about this for hours, but I'm conscious of everyone's presence here. The next thing on the list is this idea of settings, and this came up in a lot of the usability studies that were done at the thing, is whenever I watch people trying to figure out how to change a page, they find it so hard to find that little tiny edit settings link buried in navigation. And it's not consistent. Sometimes we've got turn editing on buttons, and sometimes we've got this little link. That little link can move around on different pages. So there's an idea here just to have a gear icon or something like that on the top right of every page that basically goes to editing for that page. All those in favour? Is that an idea? I think it's a really good idea, and it wouldn't break themes, I don't think, we just how we do it on all activities is still, I think, unsolved, but is probably something we can do.
All settings.
That goes along with what I said. I find that it goes along with what I said earlier about providing a framework for activities to implement things in a fashion that consistent throughout Moodle. It's like, my activity has a cog appearing there. I don't need to know where it is. It's going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
For example.
So David's saying what settings. And I'm saying, well, like if you're on a forum, you're looking at a forum and you are a teacher, then the settings for the forum, there would be a cog on the top of the page that just takes you to the existing mod edit page. If you're on the course, there's a cog that just takes you to the course settings page. If you're on the on your own profile, looking at your profile, the cog takes you to the edit profile page. So it's not rocket science. There's no need for any underlying changes. It's purely just making that link very visible. I agree with you, Fred, that the whole settings infrastructure could probably use a lot of looking at, and I think that's a future thing. But in the short term, this could be done in this theme and probably have a very large effect.
Yeah, I think this would be great for editors and tutors. I think it would make their life a lot easier just to always have a quick link to the settings page for the particular thing you're looking at.
Yeah, that's the idea of that one.
You still have the, like you were mentioning the difference between like editing the pages and adding blocks and then going to the settings page. That cog is not going to solve that. It's just going to be a more prominent link to the settings of the activity you're in. It's not customizing the page, adding blocks is still going to be the same thing. Our profile is going to be the same. You're going to have editing my profile and adding blocks to my profile.
Now, something like blocks, you know, if there is a slide out region, you know, that's where you have your button to add blocks. You wouldn't need it on the main content anymore, right? So the editing would just be reflecting exactly what you're looking at any given time. That's basically the idea. So I think there's a solution through there. Yeah, the last thing is just this requirement to not break existing themes as much as we can, not break plugins. Allow people to switch back to clean or more or any other theme, and it shouldn't be affected. So this is, as I said at the beginning, kind of a limiting parameter for this development anyway. More serious UX work with our UX person, hopefully involving everybody, will be ongoing, and we will have to at some point break things. But let's do that very deliberately and very carefully and very successfully. So that you know, everyone agrees it was a good idea, and we have a campaign to everyone to update their plugins, update their themes for, you know, version 3.3 or 3.4 or whatever it is. So we step into that new era. Maybe we'll call it Moodle 4. Who knows? Yeah, that's it. I think that's pretty clear. So that's sort of the list of things on the plate. If you want to get involved in any of those things, you want to post supporting information or countering information, or, you know, those tracker issues are the place to be. Let's talk in the forums. Let's even meet again. You know, let's see how it goes. But thanks for everyone for coming along, and it's been really useful. I've taken some notes, and hopefully we can really make something happen here. I'm very encouraged actually by all the things that are happening around Moodle, and I want to thank everyone here who's working on it. I was just at ISTE, 16,000 teachers in Denver, probably 500 companies, and a lot of little LMSs, and you know, I'm looking at them all, and they look sweet, but functionality wise, I think they don't hold a candle to Moodle. And I think we just have to fix some of the impression of Moodle, and, you know, Moodle will be the best option around. So anyway, thanks everybody. I'll publish a recording of this somewhere. I have to do some processing on it. I'll do that next couple of days, and I'll be heading home to Perth. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you for coming along. Cheers and good night. Bye.
Cheers.